The internet, in the form you would recognize it today, is nearly 30 years old, and all this time you've probably been using it wrong. We'll show you how in this week's episode of Fact Based Living. The internet is fantastic. It contains the sum of all human knowledge. Unfortunately, it also contains the sum total of human fantasy as well, and some of this fantasy is masquerading as knowledge. Depending on how the information is presented, it can be really difficult to tell these two things apart. No matter what the subject is, and no matter how it's presented or the position being taken on it, you can find somebody that will take the contrary position online. Some of these people are doing it for fun. Some of these people are true believers that just don't know any better. One of the biggest problems of the internet is because the interactions are largely textual, you don't have any emotional context to go along with it to tell you if the people are kidding, or if they're being sarcastic, or even if they're being a po. So on that note, here are some tips that I've learned over the years for avoiding pseudoscience online. Stop using social media as a primary source. Really stop using social media for anything other than what it's intended for. For example, Facebook is fantastic for sharing photos of the kids with grandma and connecting up with old friends from high school and stalking ex-girlfriends. Looking at pictures of people you once knew. Facebook's great for that. Twitter is good for having arguments that can be condensed into one or two sentences with people that you have probably never met. That's really about all it's good for. It's not a good place to get health information, to get explanations of scientific phenomenon, or anything that really requires any length of detail. And let's face it, anything to do with human health or medicine requires some substantial detail. Unfortunately, people are using Facebook as their only news source sometimes, as their only source for connection with anything. And this is a huge problem because these platforms were not designed to carry the amount of informational depth that's required to convey the concepts. Facebook's just not good at that. So that's the first thing, is stop using Facebook for anything other than its intended purpose. And the bad thing with Facebook especially is there are tons of groups that actively promote pseudoscience on social media. They have groups where they allow people to come in, and it's essentially an echo chamber where only like-minded people talk about the same subject. And because it's an echo chamber, these people are somewhat immune to criticism. And if you find yourself in one of these communities, they can make really convincing arguments because they're essentially lying to you. So if you're going to actually accept a position, go out and do your research on it yourself. Don't just follow what the Facebook group is telling you to do. Tip number 2 is, when you are searching, use the tabs that come with your browser. Now, if you look at the top of any browser window, you will notice that there are little folder tabs. I see a lot of people with only one tab open at any time. Tabs are great because you can actually open up any link into a new tab. In fact, some browsers allow you to set this as a default behavior, so anytime you click on a link, it will always open it up into a new tab. This is super helpful when you're reading through a list of stuff and you find a link to, oh, here's an explanation of how this works. You can open that up in a new tab, and then you can bounce back and forth between the two tabs instead of having to hit that pesky back button multiple times to get back to the page where you originally were on. A lot of people get lost in the links, so to speak, when using things like Wikipedia because they don't make use of the tab functions. Mobile devices also have tabs. A lot of people don't realize that, but like the mobile version of Firefox also has tab functionality that allows you to bounce back and forth between different web pages so you can compare and contrast what those two pages are saying with each other. It's super helpful. Make use of the tabs. While we're on the subject of bouncing back and forth between links, Wikipedia is not the horrible source that some people want you to think it is. Granted, it's not the best in the world because, yes, people can go in and edit the contents of it. But by and large, what you find on Wikipedia is fairly accurate, and it's a great starting place for one reason. A lot of the terms in any article will be linked to pages that explain what those terms are. So, for example, if you're going through the Wikipedia page on how cells work and you stumble across the term mitochondria and you don't know what a mitochondria is, you can click on the link, open it in a new tab, and there you will get an explanation of what the mitochondria is. And then you can bounce back and forth between the different elements of how a cell is constructed, and you can see the links in between them. And you could do so very easily because a lot of those connections are already created for you in the page. You just have to follow the link to find out what a mitochondria is. That explains how it works in the cell, and then you can go back to the cell and see how they know how it works. Super useful tool to use websites that are cross-linked in such a way. A lot of other online encyclopedias do something similar, and the cross-linking of concepts inside of a page is a super useful tool that I wish more websites did. You know what's one category of websites that will almost never have cross-links like this? Pseudoscience pages. They will have lots of links on them, but they tend to be links to pages trying to sell you their product. Big red flag if you see that. Scientific articles will tend to have links that lead to other articles explaining certain aspects of what they're talking about, or bibliography links at the bottom, which a lot of people never get down to the bottom of a Wikipedia page, but if you do scroll all the way to the bottom, you will find a set of links of things that people used to construct that article. It's like an online bibliography. So you can actually go to the bottom and see, did these people actually do their homework on this particular subject, or were they making it up? Make use of that. So now that we've talked about using tabs and following the links within an article, let's talk about another often overlooked function within web browsers, and that's bookmarks. All web browsers have the ability to save bookmarks. These are links to pages that you can go back to for quick reference. And I'm always amazed whenever I set up somebody's new version of internet or something and I go in and see that they have no bookmark saved. They just remember everything, or they use the autocomplete function within their browser window to bring them back to the same page, and they rely on that. This is not the way to use the internet. Use bookmarks. If you find something that explains how the mitochondria of the cell works, bookmark it so that way you can go back there later when you're asked a question about it, or when you're trying to use it as a point in a debate with somebody to explain to them why they're wrong about what the mitochondria is. If you don't have quick and easy access to the material that you've already researched, it can sometimes be difficult to dig back through and find just the thing you're looking for. And the nice thing about it is most browsers have a functionality built into them where you can actually put your bookmarks into folders to keep them organized. So you can actually have folders with folders inside of them organizing all of your bookmarks so that you can search through them and find them easy. And in fact, I know Firefox actually has a search tool that will allow you to put in a keyword and it will find the bookmark for you. Super handy, super useful. You should be making use of bookmarks. The last and final tip I want to show you is one you're using currently right now. Make use of YouTube. Granted, YouTube does not have a very comprehensive catalog of materials, but it's getting better the more content creators create stuff for it. And YouTube is very good at having tutorials to explain to you how to do a particular task. You can look up how to make sushi on YouTube. You can look up how to fix your car on YouTube. You can look up how to replace the oil pump in a 1978 Chevy on YouTube. And you can find somebody that will walk you through it step by step. As a learning resource, YouTube can be incredibly powerful. Unfortunately, it falls prey to the same problems as social media and certain types of internet searching, where there is a lot of demonstrable pseudoscience on YouTube. That being said, if you treat your YouTube search the same way you would treat any other internet search, and look for connections between things and actively go out and try to find the debunking of those connections to see if there's any merit to that, you will have a lot more successful time using YouTube. Now, one great tip when using either a Google, Yahoo, Bing internet search or a YouTube search is to follow it up with the word skeptic. For example, if you put in chiropractic followed by the word skeptic, you will be more likely to find science and evidence-based resources on that topic versus just putting in the term chiropractic alone. Now, why does this work? Because there is a large community online of people in the skeptical community, which means the science and evidence-based community, who have probably already covered that particular topic and already have a good explanation as to whether or not it is pseudoscience. This is an extremely useful tool, especially if you follow it up by looking through several pages to see if what they're saying is congruent with each other. That's always a good indicator if something is more likely to be scientific than not, is the congruence of factors. If they're all converging on the same conclusion, then you're more likely to be correct than not. So make use of the fact that the skeptical community is already out here fighting hard against these demonstrably untrue ideas and trying to get the actual information out there. But YouTube is a fantastic resource, and there are more and more science and evidence-based pages coming up every day. It's getting much better. Now, granted, most of us aren't getting paid for it the way things used to be before the adpocalypse, but that's okay because most of us are not motivated by getting a paycheck the way guys like Jeranism probably are. We're motivated by being educators and by being honest. And that's probably a lot more important than the pittance of a paycheck you can get from YouTube. So make use of YouTube. Make use of the skeptic tag. Use your bookmarks. Use your tabs. Use Wikipedia. It's not as bad as they say. And stop using social media as a resource tool. Well, that brings this episode of Fact-Based Living to an end. I have some big news on the horizon. I have recently made an upgrade to the production values of the channel, and things are going to start improving, hopefully dramatically. I have a pretty steep learning curve ahead of me, but it's a lot less steep than the terrible freeware animation software that I was using. So I actually took some time off, sat down, tried to figure out how to use this stuff, and I think it's going to make a marked improvement in the channel. So if you like it, please give me a like and a subscribe below. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, leave them in the comments down there, or follow the link that's in the description to my email, which is factbasedliving@gmail.com. And I will see you next week for the first in a multi-part episode series on vaccines. Talk to you then. Signing off from Fact-Based Living.